Now, Musa alayhi salam, he asked his student to bring him food, right? So yes, a teacher can give instructions to the student in terms of what is ma'ruf, what is approved, what is correct. And also the relationship between a true teacher and a student is not limited to the classroom only, right? It is beyond that also. And also we learn from this that when a student has benefited from a teacher, then he should be ready to serve him in what is ma'ruf, because again, there is no obedience of the creation in the disobedience of the creator. So then is there any scope for anything like spiritual abuse? Not at all. That's zulm. That is zulm. So you only obey a created being if it is that that obedience is aligned with the obedience of the creator, Allah. Okay? And also we learn that this service of Yusha ibn Nun towards Musa alayhi salam, him accompanying him, him serving him, was also an indication of his gratitude towards that knowledge that he gained from his teacher. قَالَ أَرَأَيْتَ إِذْ أَوَيْنَا إِلَى الصَّخْرَةِ. He said, meaning Yusha, said to Musa alayhi salam in amazement, did you see when we retired to the rock? Meaning, do you remember? And the purpose of this istifham, this question, is ta'ajjub, amazement. Did you see when we retired to the rock? The term awayna from Hamza wa ya. Awa means he took refuge. Ma'wa is place of refuge. And the term sakhra from Sad Kha Ra, sakhra is a huge boulder. Did you see when we retired to the rock at that location? فَإِنِّي نَسِيتُ الْحُوتِ. Indeed, I forgot there the fish, meaning I forgot to mention to you what I had seen. وَمَا أَنْسَانِهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ أَذْكُرَهُ. And none made me forget it, meaning the dhikr of the fish or this strange incident, except shaitan, that I should mention it to you when you woke up after your nap. وَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ عَجَبًا. And it took its course into the sea amazingly. Ajaba from Ain Jim Ba. Ajab means surprising. So this fish, it took its way into the water in a strange manner, because it was actually dead, and that became alive and it swam off. So it was ittikhadan ajaba. The way it actually rose up and went into the water was strange. I mean, this is not normally something that a dead fish will do. Okay. Then also ajaban meaning sabilan ajaban. The path that the fish took was actually unusual, leaving a tunnel behind. That's not how fish normally swim. Now, we learn from this that a person is always tested in his journey of knowledge. Musa alayhi salam was tested through his student, but he did not give up on his student, nor did he get angry. So yes, teachers are tested through students and students are tested through teachers. Sometimes through things like memory lapse, missing what is obvious, forgetting something important. But one should reflect upon these kinds of matters and take lessons and improve and continue. One shouldn't give up. And also we learn from this that a student should never conceal or lie about his mistake under pressure. Okay? Mistakes happen. We're all human beings. But those who lie, those who are pretentious, those who deceive others, can never succeed. So Yusha, he tells Musa alayhi salam exactly what happened. He doesn't do something like, blaming Musa alayhi salam that because of you, we had to travel so much and I was tired also, and you know what? It's your fault we forgot. Or he didn't make up something, somebody must have stolen the fish. I don't know, how am I supposed to? He didn't say any of these kinds of things. He just told him exactly what happened accurately. قال ذلك ما كنا نبغ. Musa alayhi salam said, that is what we were seeking. Meaning this matter of the fish, that is what we were seeking. This is what we've been looking for, the swimming away of the fish. That's the place of meeting Qadr. And the term nabaghi from ba ghain ya. This was actually nabaghi. فَارْتَدَّ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمَا قَصَصًا. So they returned following their footprints. The term فَارْتَدَّ from ra dal dal. Radd means to return. And the alif here, فَارْتَدَّ for dual. And the term athar, plural of athar. Athar means trace or remnant, mark or footstep. And qasasa from qaf, sad, sad. Qassun means to walk in someone's footsteps, to follow. Musa alayhi salam's sister was told by his mother, qussi, follow him, when he was put into the basket and put into the river. So they returned on their own tracks in pursuit of their own footprints, the way that they had come. So what do we learn from this? When a person makes promises, sets goals, has some ambitions, Allah will test that person. Is he really true to his words, or just making tall claims? So maybe, a particular female learns about her deen, and she wants to implement the teachings of her deen. She, adopts the proper Islamic dress code. Okay? She wears the hijab, no matter what people say to her. And some people do make fun of her. But she decides she's going to continue in her resolve. Okay? She goes to some school. She finds it difficult to communicate with her professors because of her hijab. It restricts her socialization amongst men. And then, people tell her that because of this hijab of yours, you're not getting the best marks. Professors don't want to really meet you. Nobody really likes you because of this. You don't have many friends because of this. And then maybe other people will tell this girl that, you're not even receiving many proposals because you wear this hijab. Nobody wants to marry you. Tests, right? A person starts learning the Qur'an and makes a firm resolve to learn the Qur'an cover to cover. Tests will come. Personal challenges will come. In all kinds of shapes and forms, from all kinds of directions, in the form of illnesses sometimes, or the illnesses of loved ones sometimes. Sometimes one will have to, shift homes in the middle of this learning, relocate from one place to another. One might end up losing a job. Okay. Many times with females, there are many connected concerns, like, maybe it's marriage for some, while they're learning the Qur'an. They made the firm resolve, I have to learn the Qur'an cover to cover. And then what happens? You learn a few ajza, there's a proposal that comes, your parents are agreeable, and alhamdulillah, there's nothing wrong with this proposal, it's a good one. You find out that you're getting married while you're, enrolled in the course, learning the Qur'an. Alhamdulillah, these tests come. At times, a female starts learning the Qur'an cover to cover, she's married, she finds out that she's expecting a child, she's pregnant. This will bring its own challenges. So whenever you make a firm resolve in doing something for the sake of Allah purely, you will go through tests. Look at those tests as what? Just opportunities to purify your intention yet again. And don't give up. Musa alayhi salam, he said he was going to travel for years if he had to, in pursuit of knowledge. Allah tested him by making him travel a bit extra. And since he was sincere, he went on without complaining, and he actually retracked his footsteps to get to the right spot. He didn't give up. He wasn't like, oh, but my intention was very good. I missed that point, and I actually ended up traveling extra. You know what? This was not the right choice. Let me just go back. He retracked his footsteps to the point where he was supposed to be. This is sincerity. Then also we learn from this, the teacher should be patient with the mistakes and the forgetfulness of the student. Musa alayhi salam is not found scolding the student or yelling at him. Dealing with other people's real errors and mistakes is sabr. And yes, because of other people's mistakes, you end up losing time sometimes. You get exhausted. You end up putting in a little bit too much effort in something that could have been, handled with less effort. It's a little bit frustrating, but one must develop tolerance and forgive shortcomings. And only a person who realizes that whatever happens, happens for a reason. Allah is in control of all matters, can have sabr at such moments. And also, once a mistake has been made, it cannot really be reversed, right? What happened, happened. So move on from it. Focus on what needs to be done now, after the mistake was made. And where this is an important reminder when it comes to the teacher-student relationship, this is also an important reminder when it comes to the parent-child relationship. Good parents, effective, well-wishing parents, learn to remind their children of, the do's and don'ts, but they also regularly forgive the mistakes of their children. Otherwise, they would not be effective, right? Then also we learn from this the importance of not wasting time. Once Musa alayhi salam found out that they had crossed that point which they were supposed to stop at, he returned immediately to where he was supposed to be. Otherwise, what would have happened if he procrastinated? He might have missed that opportunity of being able to meet Khadir. You end up missing a few classes, and you're like, okay, but now it's been so many classes. Is there a way for me to catch up? Yes, there is. Try slow and steady. And what is happening now, don't miss out on that. Right? Don't miss the current classes just because you've missed certain classes in the past. So here Allah mentions, فَوَجَدَ عَبَدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا, and they found upon reaching the correct destination a servant from among our servants. This is referring to Khadir. And Khadir, as was mentioned earlier from Kha, Bad, Ra, really means the green one. That's what it means. It is said he was given this title, again this is his title, not his name, because wherever it is that he would sit, that area would become green. Okay, so they found a servant from among our servants, meaning min ibadillahi salihin, from amongst Allah's righteous slaves. Abadan min ibadina, a servant from among our servants. Ataynahu rahmatan min indina, to whom we had given mercy from us, meaning a special favor, close friendship. So as I mentioned, there are two opinions about who Khadir was. One is that he was from amongst the awliya of Allah. So then this would mean special favor is wilayah, nearness to Allah, right? And again, remember, there's not any kind of a physical nearness. This is referring to what? Strong faith, strong connection with Allah, sound, strong relationship with Allah. Meaning what? A wali of Allah is really whom? Think about this. Who is a true wali of Allah? Connect this to also what we learned earlier today in Fiqh al-Qulub class. The one who longs to meet Allah, which means this is the person who loves Allah the most, which means what? This is the one who wants to obey Allah the most. This is the one who wants to obey Allah on His terms the most. Right? And then another opinion about Khadir is that he is from amongst the prophets. So then this would be referring to wahi and prophethood. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا, and we had taught him from us a certain knowledge. Now, inda and ladun both are used for nearness. Ladun is more specific. And ilman is nakira, common noun, because it gives the meaning of khas. And this is then referring to ilmul ghaib, as is obvious when it comes to the story that will follow. And again, this could also be referring to ilm of nubuwwah, prophethood. And of course, this ilm is ilm granted by Allah. Again, when it comes to Khadir, we learn that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said he was called al-Khadir because he sat on a barren area and it turned green beneath him. As mentioned in hadith. قال له موسى, Musa said to him, هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا? May I follow you? May I accompany you and spend time with you? May I follow you on the condition that you teach me from what you have been taught by Allah of sound knowledge, of sound judgment? And the term tu'allimani from ta'aleem, from ayn lam mim. Ta'aleem means instruction. And the term rushda from ra sheen dal. Rushd is right, sensible conduct, maturity of the mind, guidance, rectitude, understanding. Ilm is to know, right? It's knowledge, which you can get from books as well. That's like raw gold. That's like raw gold. Rushd is to apply knowledge correctly and use the ilm or the knowledge correctly to turn raw gold into something that is actually beautiful, like a beautiful piece of jewelry. One gets this with experience and training and righteous company. So rushd is sensible conduct, good sense, maturity of mind. And it is developed with and after some ilm, through experience, not just books. So Musa said to him, may I follow you on the condition that you teach me from what you have been taught of sound knowledge. Now this request that Musa alayhi salam made was very polite, very humble. Even though Musa alayhi salam is a prophet, yet he's so respectful towards somebody who is more knowledgeable than him. So polite. Because very soon he's going to gain knowledge from him that he did not know of. His approach was not that, I'm here, I've taken out this time to come and meet you, Khadir, so you give me your knowledge quickly, I have to go back to my people. No, he's patient, he's humble, he's dignified. And this shows that the student should be polite and respectful towards his teacher. He should treat him with honor and respect. Because at times, because of the influence that we choose to take, remember, we don't just randomly take influence, we choose to take influence. We, at times, choose to take negative influence from our surroundings, our cultures, and in the name of friendship and frankness, we forget our manners when it comes to dealing with people who are more than us in terms of knowledge, more than us in terms of age. So in order to take something, this is a very general kind of a principle that we all can understand easily. In order to take something, to receive something in the physical, tangible sense, you have to lower yourself because you're the recipient. Imagine a jug. It's filled with water. You want to take some of that water from the jug and you have a glass which is empty. So how will this water from the jug come into the glass? Where does the glass have to be? It has to be lower and the jug has to be above so the water can descend from the jug into the glass. This is the proper methodology. Okay. Also, it is said that knowledge, it is wasted between shyness and arrogance. It is wasted between shyness and arrogance. We learned that Imran ibn Muslim, he reported that Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said, acquire knowledge and teach people. Learn with it dignity and tranquility. Humility for those who teach you and humility for those whom you teach. Do not be tyrannical scholars and thus base your knowledge upon your ignorance. And of course, when you give respect, you gain respect. So where it's important for the student to respect the teacher should also do what? Respect the student. And not manipulate the student. Then also Musa alayhi salam's vision is focused. He has come to learn, so he asks Khadir directly, that can I accompany you so I can gain knowledge from you? He clarifies to Khadir the exact reason for which he has come. I have come to learn from you. That's what he's saying. He's not saying, can I just sit down and eat with you? What do you eat? What kind of food do you have? He has no hidden agendas, no hidden motives. He does not allow Khadir to become suspicious of him. Because when a person informs the other that he has come to learn from him, he will only be happy to teach then, right? And each person whom Allah has given knowledge to must be happy when he has the opportunity to teach others. Because it is his knowledge that he has taught to others that will be of benefit to him in the year after also. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, when a person dies, his deeds are cut off except for three: continuing charity, knowledge that others benefited from, and a righteous child who supplicates for him. Notice how Musa alayhi salam doesn't use the word ilm, he uses the word rushdan. Right? Because to some extent Musa alayhi salam did have knowledge. He also had rushd. He wanted more rushd. Knowledge comes with responsibility. Knowledge is to be put into practice, not just stored in books. So he's asking for what? With the knowledge that he has, and he has a lot of knowledge, he wants what? Correct application. He wants more rushd. And again, what is the difference between ilm and rushd? Ilm is to know. It's like raw gold. And rushd is more like wisdom, sound judgment, application. Being able to transfer or transform raw gold into a beneficial, beautiful piece of jewelry. So rushd has to do with how to implement what one knows. And also there's this saying, there's some truth to that. Knowledge speaks and wisdom listens. So when a person has knowledge only, he tends to talk a lot. Because what does he want to do? Project his knowledge onto others. I know this, I know this, I know this. But when he attains wisdom, he becomes silent. He realizes how much he still doesn't know. And at times he does know a lot. He chooses to remain silent so that he can learn more. You see also, connect this to what we learned earlier, that Allah mentions most people, or human beings in general, are most of all argumentative. Many arguments arise because of what? Misunderstandings, miscommunications. People imposing their knowledge on other people, and their knowledge is faulty. Their approach is my way or the highway. You believe what I'm saying, or I don't want to talk to you. And I will keep on arguing with you until you let go of your position and adopt mine. This is unwise. Right? قَالَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. He said, meaning Khadir said, indeed with me you will never be able to have patience. This rushd is hard to learn. And the term تَسْتَطِيعَ from طَا وَعَيْن, istita'a, is to have the ability to do something. And then he mentions the reason behind that. وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. And how can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge? How can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge? It's beyond your ability. It's not that you are impatient or you have this defect, nothing can be done about it. But you are not able to. It's beyond your ability. How can you have patience for what you don't encompass in knowledge? You have not reached its depth. You're not aware of the haqiqah, the reality. The term khubara from khabara. Khabar means news or information. And khabara means to get information, to know something thoroughly or to find out about something. And how did Khadir know that Musa alayhi salam did not encompass in knowledge? Meaning, how come he said this? How can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge? How does Khadir know that Musa alayhi salam does not encompass everything in terms of knowledge? Because Musa alayhi salam had said, right? He had made this request. هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. He asked for ta'aleem. And this also proves that he did not have knowledge that Khadir had. But then again, Musa alayhi salam doesn't give up. Look at how he responds. The initial refusal from the side of Khadir makes him actually more determined because of how sincere he is. Certain obstacles will present themselves in your life. Why? So that you can purify your intention further. Look at it optimistically. Look at it positively. It's a means of elevating your ranks. قَالَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِن شَاءَ اللَّهُ صَابِرًا. Musa alayhi salam said, you will find me, if Allah wills, patient in taking what is being taught. You will find me, if Allah wills. Meaning I hope for Allah's tawfiq to be able to do this. You will find me, if Allah wills, patient. وَلَا أَعْصِي لَكَ أَمْرًا. And I will not disobey you in any order. The term أَعْصِي from عين صادية, عصيان means to disobey. Ma'asiyah is the act of disobedience. So any hukum that you give me, I will not disobey. And Musa alayhi salam said this, believing in himself at that moment that he will remain patient. So he expresses his resolve, his himmah. Right? This is what he's making known. And his himmah, his resolve is connected to what again? What do you think his determination is connected to? Sincerity. It's connected to his ikhlas. If you are sincere about pursuing something, you won't just give up because of this and that and the other. You will do the best that you can. Musa alayhi salam said what he said, believing in himself at that moment that he will be able to remain patient. But he conditioned his sabr with what? The will of Allah. So that he does not give credit to himself for it. He didn't put trust in himself, rather he trusted Allah. And sabr is also difficult, so one can only exhibit sabr with the tawfiq of Allah. And so from this we learn that if a person wants to do something very good, but it is difficult, he should still make the intention and say, Insha'Allah, I will do such and such. This is similar to what we learn in the context of Ismail alayhi salam, right? In terms of what he said to his father Ibrahim alayhi salam, in verse number 102 of Surah As-Saffat. And when he reached with him the age of exertion, he said, O my son, indeed I have seen in a dream that I must sacrifice you, so see what you think. Ibrahim alayhi salam said to his son Ismail. And what did his son say? He said, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar, satajiduni insha'Allahu minas sabirin. O my father, do as you are commanded, you will find me, if Allah wills, of the steadfast. So Musa alayhi salam promises his teacher two things. Number one, I will be patient. And number two, I will not disobey you. If a student is like this, only then will he actually benefit from the knowledge that he has access to. If the student becomes the teacher of the teacher, he will not be able to gain knowledge. Think about, the doctor-patient relationship also. If a patient goes to the doctor with this mindset, I'm going to teach the doctor how to be a doctor, how much is he going to benefit from the advice of the doctor? So as students, if we don't value the instructions given to us by our teachers, and we're always challenging them, this itself serves as a big obstacle in the path of acquiring knowledge. قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرى. He said, meaning Khadir said, then if you follow me, if you come along with me, do not ask me about anything until I make to you about it mention. These are the rules and conditions for your admission. If you follow me, do not ask me about anything. فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي عَنْ شَيْءٍ. And tas'alni from su'al, sin hamza lam. Su'al means question or interrogation. Do not ask me to know more about any matter that you see, or in terms of raising any objection. That why this or why that. Don't initiate any discussion of the matters that you see unfolding before you. حَتَّى أُحْدِثَ لَكَ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا. Until I make you about it mention. I make to you about it mention. I initiate the discussion. And the term uhditha from hadalta, from huduth. And huduth is used in the meaning of something coming into existence that didn't exist before. Kawnu shay lam yakun. Hadith means speech or a saying, because a speech is known after it is uttered, right? A statement is known after it is uttered. It has to be heard. Meaning, I'm thinking of something, you will only know about it once I verbalize it, right? That becomes hadith, a statement. So, do not ask me about anything until I make to you about it mention, until I explain it to you. So don't comment on what I'm doing, just observe. Now we learn from this that a teacher can set whatever conditions he wishes for the student in the ma'aruf category, in what is known to be Islamically and also, as per the sound intellect, reasonable, accepted practice. And then the student has to accept if he wants to remain as a student. And this is, well known. When you attend any school, any college, you are told to abide by certain terms and conditions. And you must accept those terms and conditions. And also of the etiquette of the student of knowledge with his teacher is that he should not begin questioning and commenting until the teacher has fully explained himself. Right? Although questioning is good in its own way, it is also half of knowledge. Sometimes asking questions or asking too many questions can be harmful, counterproductive. Why? It may be that the person is not ready to grasp the answer yet. It's premature. And sometimes a question is not really a question, it's more of an objection. Likewise, sometimes questions that are posed at inappropriate times interrupt the process of learning. They create a disruption. فَانْطَلَقَا, so they set out. They too set out. Musa and Khadir. Yusha is not mentioned. Okay. حَتَّى إِذَا رَكِبَ فِي السَّفِينَةِ خَرَقَهَا. Until when they had embarked on the ship, al-Khadir tore it open. The term فَانْطَلَقَ from lam qaf. انطلق means to take off or depart or to go. The term talaq means divorce, which is a kind of untying of a knot, the marriage contract. Talaqah means to be free and happy. We also learn from our hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, every good deed is charity. Kullu ma'arufin sadaqah. Right? Verily, it is a good deed to meet your brother with a smiling face. An talqa akhaka biwajhin talqin. Talqin, qalam qaf, right? So, talaqa means to be free and happy. And the hadith continues and mentions to pour what is left from your bucket into the vessel of your brother. This is also a good deed. You've eaten your lunch, a little bit is left. Your friend doesn't have enough lunch. You give that to your friend. Okay, for example, that's also sadaqah. فَانْطَلَقَ, so they set out. The terms were agreed, the journey begins. Musa alayhi salam, along with Khadr, begin to walk. They move. What about Yusha? Either he was left behind, he didn't accompany them, or he's there but he's just a spectator. That's all. حَتَّى إِذَا رَكِبَ فِي السَّفِينَةِ, until when they had embarked on the ship, and the ship sailed on. The term rakiba from ra kaf ba, rakiba means to ride. And the term rakub is used for a riding animal. Until when they had embarked on the ship, safina. Safina from sin fa noon, safana means to scrape off the skin. The term safina is used for the bark of a tree, which can easily be scraped off, and also a ship. And often ships are built with what? Wood. And the term safina is more typically used for a crafted passenger ship. Whereas fulk is also used for ship, but it's used for cargo ship. A ship carrying cargo. So they embarked on this journey until when they had embarked on the ship. And the ship sailed. خَرَقَهَا, he tore it open, meaning Khadir tore it open. And the term خَرَقَهَا from خَرَقَف, خَرْق is used for a gap or a wide hole. And so kharaqa, it means to tear or pierce or penetrate. To break something without following any order. So kharq means to ruin something without thinking. Opposite of khalq, which is to create in an orderly fashion. Qala, he said, meaning Musa alayhi salam asked Khadir out of amazement, because he found this to be very shocking. أَخَرَقْتَهَا لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا, have you torn it open to drown its people? Because now this ship is not intact, and so the water is going to enter into the ship. And it's a passenger ship, so the passengers will drown. What's going on? And this Hamza here, أَخَرَقْتَهَا, Hamza of istifham. But is Musa alayhi salam supposed to be asking any questions? No. The condition was no questions. But he said, have you turned it open to drown its people? لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا, and the term لِتُغْرِقَ from غَيْن را قاف. غَرْق means to drown or to sink. Have you torn it open to drown its people, the people of the ship? لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا, you have certainly done a grave thing, a dreadful thing, that's grave and reprehensible. The term imra from Hamza Mim Ra. The term amira, it means azuma and kathura, something that's very serious, very grave, very great. And Imam Baghawi, he says that imr means scary, frightening. So he's saying, you have certainly done a grave thing, abominable, terrible, grievous, bad, evil. A matter that is seriously munkar, not right. So he's implying what you've done is khilaful aql and also khilaful shara. It doesn't make sense as per the sound intellect, it doesn't make sense as per the legislation. Mujahid, he says that imran means munkar, unacceptable. Now Musa alayhi salam posed this question out of shock and amazement. But he ended up going against the rules that had been set by Khadir. Now Musa alayhi salam was very strong, very firm when it came to the commands of Allah, the rights of people. Which is why when he saw Khadir damaging the ship, he was shocked. قال ألم أقل إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. Khadir said, did I not say that with me you would never be able to have patience? So Khadir reminds Musa alayhi salam of the previously agreed upon condition. So Musa alayhi salam immediately realized and he apologized. He didn't argue. قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت. Musa alayhi salam said, do not blame me for what I forgot. تؤاخذني from Hamza Kha Dal. Akhadha means to take. Mu'akhadha is to call to account, to seize. So do not blame me for what I forgot. Don't take me to task on account of that which I forgot. وَلَا تُرْهِقْنِي مِنْ أَمْرِي عُسْرًا. And do not cover me in my matter with usra, with difficulty. The term turhiqni from raha qaf. Rahaqa means to overtake or overcome. Arhaqa, yurhiqu, irhaq means to lay such a burden on someone that is hard to bear. So he's saying, do not be too hard on me in your companionship. Deal with me with ease. Now, why did Musa alayhi salam forget what he forgot? Because what Khadir had done was not ordinary. At times of fright and panic, people forget some of the most important things. So again, we learned the student should admit his shortcomings. This shows us Musa alayhi salam's humility. He accepted that he was in the wrong immediately. Also, we learn from this, a student can also request from the teacher not to be too strict. Okay? Because that could possibly hinder the learning process, right? So Musa alayhi salam requests, treat me throughout this journey with forgiveness and pardon. فَانْطَلَقَا. So they set out after leaving the ship. حَتَّى إِذَا لَقِيَا غُلَامًا. Until when they met a boy. And the term ghulam is used for one who is younger than fatah, someone who's just reached puberty. Until when they met a boy. فَقَتَلَهُ. He killed him, meaning Khadir killed him. Now, killing someone is not something small. This was something also clearly prohibited in the legislation that Musa alayhi salam was following. And the intellect, the sound intellect also rejects this. So Musa alayhi salam speaks up. قال, he said, meaning Musa alayhi salam said, أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً. Have you killed a pure soul? And again, أَقَتَلْتَ, Hamza of istifham. But is he supposed to be asking any questions? No. So here, what he means to say is how, kaifa, how could you kill a pure soul? The term zakiyya from zai kaf ya or zai kaf waw, from the term zakah, which means to be pure. So, nafsan zakiyya, meaning a nafs that is sinless, a pure soul without sin. An innocent soul. Meaning you are not killing someone who's done something wrong. You're killing someone who didn't do anything wrong, yet you killed him. أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. Have you killed a pure soul for other than having killed a soul for another soul that he had killed? This is not legal retribution. It's not like you're killing someone because that person killed somebody else. So this is qisas. لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. You have certainly done a deplorable thing. Nukra from nun kafra. Nukra means not acceptable, detested. Munkar is from the same root letters. Munkar meaning unacceptable as per the aql and also the sharia. Nukra is used for something very difficult to understand, makes no sense, horrific, something clearly evil. Now Musa alayhi salam was a messenger and he enjoined good and forbade evil. So according to this habit of his of enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil, he condemns this act, killing someone, because that's not something small. It was something forbidden as per the Israeli law. So Musa alayhi salam was not able to remain patient. Now this reprimand of Musa alayhi salam for Khadir is more severe than the previous one. Meaning his statement, have you killed a pure soul for other than having killed a soul? Because this question implies, kaifa, how can you do this? Not just why, right? Why is a little bit milder, but how is a little bit more serious. You know, it's like somebody walks into like a classroom late, you know. So they could be questioned, right? Like, why are you late? That's, maybe taken as a rebuke. But then if someone walks in late and they're saying, how can you be late? That's more serious, right? But then also think about this. Earlier, Khadir had done what? Damaged the ship. Okay, it's bad, but maybe not all that bad. Killing someone? That's much more serious. Now, apparently, this may seem as though he is not really giving full respect to his teacher, right? But if you think about it, if you're going somewhere with someone and that person kills a child, are you just going to remain quiet? You know, when it comes to children, all of us become very sensitive, right? If someone harms an adult, manipulates an adult, does something horrific with an adult, that's terrible. We don't like it. But with a child, it hurts us even more, right? It bothers us even more. قال ألم أقل لك Qadir, he said, did I not tell you? And this is a more shadid warning. Because Musa alayhi salam already has been reminded, right, before. So did I not tell you, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا, that with me you would never be able to have patience? Meaning the patience that is required to learn the knowledge that Allah has given to me, you will not be able to have that patience. You might have the resolve, but you won't have the patience. I told you this at the very beginning. قَالَ إِن سَأَلْتُكَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ, Musa alayhi salam, he said, if I should ask you about anything بَعْدَهَا, after this, meaning after this incident, فَلَا تُصَاحِبْنِي, then do not keep me as a companion. تُصَاحِبْنِي from صَاد حاء با, صُحْبة is companionship, meaning then okay, deprive me of your companionship. You can expel me. قَدْ بَلَغْتَ مِن لَدُنِّي عُذْرًا, you have obtained from me an excuse. عُذْرًا from عين ذال را. عُذْر means apology or excuse. Meaning you've received from me apologies or excuses. So then, now don't keep me in your company. I apologize for that. So if I ask you anything after this, then keep me not in your company. Again, we see Musa alayhi salam admitting his mistake and apologizing. فَانْطَلَقَا, so they set out after the first two instances. حَتَّى إِذَا أَتَيَا أَهْلَ قَرْيَةٍ, until when they came to the people of a town. Now Allah does not mention the name of this town. So we don't need to make guesses about it. Until when they came to the people of a town, استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما. They asked its people for food, but they refused to offer them hospitality. The term استطعما from طاء عين ميم. طعم is used for food. And استطعما, it means to seek food. So the word ta'am actually is used for, that special feeling that you get when you eat or drink. Okay? So they asked its people for food by way of hospitality, because there weren't any hotels at that time that you could just check into, right? When you visited a particular township, the people of that township were required to do what? Extend hospitality towards you. This was the norm. So they asked its people for food. فَأَبَوْا, but they refused. Abaw from Hamza ba ya. Aba ya aba means to harshly refuse. أَن يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا, to offer them hospitality. And the term يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا from ضاد ya fa. ضيف means guest. And ضَيَّفَ يُضَيِّفُ, it means to be a host, to offer hospitality. Now we don't know why they did this. But this is against generosity. It's a naqs, right? It's not something good that somebody is asking you, as a traveler, do you have some food to share? And then you refuse. Because from hadith also we learn, right? Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyukrim ضيفه. The one who believes in Allah and the last day should treat his guest properly, meaning with respect. فَوَجَدَا فِيهَا جِدَارًا يُرِيدُ أَن يَنْقَضَّ. And they found therein a wall about to collapse. فَوَجَدَا from waw jim dal. And the term jidar from jim dal ra, jadara means to be fit and worthy, deserving. And the term yuridu from ra waw dal, irada means intent. And yanqadda from qaf dad, or noon qaf dad. Qadda means to crush or pierce. The term inqidab means to fall down or tumble down. And from the root letters noon qaf dad, naqadda means to break or violate. So it was about to, this wall was about to violate the standing position, meaning it was about to fall. It was close to falling down. Maybe because of its weakness or because it was tilted, maybe leaning to one side. Now notice how it is mentioned. Look at this description. فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا جِدَارًا يُرِيدُ أَن يَنْقَضَّ. And they found therein a wall about to collapse. It was about to. Yuridu from irada. When do we make an intention to do something? When we're just about to do it. So this wall was just about to fall. Or this can actually even be taken in the literal sense. Because things around us, objects also, inanimate objects, do tasbih in some way. They also intend in some way, right? And their actions are determined by Allah's will and idhn. The earth thanks Allah when someone evil dies and leaves this earth. It also cries when a pious person leaves. And we learn of this in Surah Ad-Dukhan also, verse number 28, that Allah mentions, فَمَا بَكَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّمَاءُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَا كَانُوا مُنظَرِينَ. And the heaven and the earth wept not for them, nor were they reprieved, meaning the evil people, the wrongdoers. And as we learned in Surah Al-Isra, verse 44, that everything glorifies Allah, does tasbih. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ. But you do not understand their way of tasbih. The pulpit of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? When he moved from it, and a different pulpit was made for him, he moved from the original one. That one was heard crying. Okay, so the wall intended to fall. Why? Because it was weak. فَأَقَامَهُ. So Al-Khadir, he restored it, he straightened it, he fixed it. How Allah gave him the strength to do this? قَالَ, he said, meaning Musa alayhi salam said, لَوْ شِئْتَ لَاتَّخَذْتَ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا. If you wished, you could have taken for it a payment, some sort of wage. He didn't say, why did you fix the wall when these people didn't even offer us any hospitality? He gave a suggestion. But in the suggestion was a subtle objection, any question. And this shows that Musa alayhi salam was not allowed to comment or ask or interrupt this whole process of learning. Now, we see that before even Khadir would be able to say anything, Musa alayhi salam would express his amazement, or sometimes his denial, or give his suggestion. This is where there was a lack of sabr. And this kind of patience is actually very important for the student, to hold his breath until the teacher has completed the entire lesson. قَالَ هَذَا فِرَاقُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنِكَ. He said, meaning Khadir said, this is parting between me and you. Because this was something Musa alayhi salam himself suggested. Right? And the term firaq from faraqa. Faraqa means to separate. And firaq means departure or farewell. This is parting between me and you, meaning the moment for parting. سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيلِ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. I will inform you of the interpretation of that about which you could not have patience. The term سَأُنَبِّئُكَ from Noon Ba Hamza, Naba is important relevant news. I will inform you before we depart from each other of the interpretation, meaning the explanation of that about which you could not have sabr. The term ta'wil from Hamza wa Lam Awala means to return. Ta'wil is interpretation or explanation, to understand the reality of something. So we see the kindness of Khadir also here. He doesn't just leave his student to wonder what happened, what was all of this about. He tells him the answers before leaving him. Now one may think, oh, Khadir was very strict. But the fact is that he warned Musa alayhi salam, gave him 3 chances. Still, it was not actually working out, right? If a student does not benefit from the chances given to him, then soon the time elapses, opportunities expire. Because this shows that the student is not really capable. So he shouldn't waste the teacher's time, he shouldn't waste other people's time also. Amma safina, as for the ship, meaning the ship that I tore, Khadir gives the explanation. فَكَانَتْ لِمَسَاكِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ فِي الْبَحْرِ. It belonged to poor people working at sea. Masakin, plural of miskin. From Sin Kaf Noon, miskin is one who has something but not enough. But he doesn't go around begging people. So this is referring to sailors who are working at sea, meaning they had some means of livelihood, but they didn't have everything taken care of, right? There were certain needs of theirs unmet. So this teaches us that a miskin can actually be an owner of a ship or a vehicle, right? But this person's income is insufficient in terms of fulfilling his needs. فَأَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَعِيبَهَا. So I intended, I here referring to Khadir, I intended to cause defect in it. Now notice how this bringing defect to the ship is something Khadir attributes to himself. Notice this. Because this is something that can be perceived of as being evil, not so nice, right? And anything that is even remotely evil or not nice is not directly attributed to Allah. So he says, I intended to cause defect in it. And a'ibaha from ayn ya ba. Aib means defect or fault. وَكَانَ وَرَاءَهُمْ مَلِكٌ. As there was after them, meaning behind them, beyond them, a king. يَأْخُذُ كُلَّ سَفِينَةٍ غَصْبًا. Who seized every good ship by force, forcefully. غصبا from غين صاد با. غصب is to snatch something by force. I made a hole in the ship to make it defective so that when the king would see the ship, he would consider it to be useless and leave it alone and not take it. It is said that this king was at war, so he was taking all the ships that he could to reinforce his naval fleet. So here we learn of the principle of repelling the greater evil with what is lesser. So if part of something has to be harmed in order to save the rest of it, this is permissible. And this principle has to be applied all the time, for instance, in medicine also. If a certain part of the body is defective, what do? It's become infected terribly. So amputation takes place to save the rest of the body. And so sometimes surgical procedures that are intrusive have to be performed in order to save a person from greater danger. So Khadir is providing an explanation of what Musa alayhi salam found difficult to understand, and the appearance of which he condemned. So apparently the deed seemed like something, but the reasoning was something else, right? And so there are 2 types of knowledge. One is knowledge of the apparent, and then there's knowledge of the hidden reasons. So sometimes a thing may look different outwardly, but it is completely different when you open it up. But what do we do in haste? We formulate opinions without looking holistically. Likewise, we may think that a certain thing is harmful, but in fact it's beneficial. And sometimes we may perceive of something as being beneficial, but it's actually harmful. We learn in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 19, that Allah mentions, فَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. If you dislike something, perhaps it is that you dislike something and Allah makes therein much good. And in Surah Al-Baqarah also we learn in verse number 216. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Perhaps you hate a thing and it's good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it's bad for you, and Allah knows while you know not. So every single day we see things that we don't like, and we see things also that we do like. We must keep in mind that if a certain thing is not how we want it to be, there must be some good that Allah has kept in it. A true believer is pleased with the decree of Allah. Because we've been taught, and we know this very well, Allah does not do any zulm. So here Allah mentions, as for the ship, it belonged to poor people working at sea. Khadir explains to Musa. So I intended to cause defect in it, as there was after them a king who seized every good ship by force. So Khadir knew of the reality of this matter. So he made the ship defective with the permission of Allah. What do we learn from this? Allah sometimes puts in our paths smaller difficulties to save us from greater difficulties. So anything that comes in your way in life, accept it with happiness. And say, رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا. I am pleased with Allah as Rabb, meaning Khaliq, Malik, and Mudabbir. Creator, owner, and planner. وَأَمَّا الْغُلَامَ. And as for the boy, meaning in terms of why he was killed, فَكَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْن. His parents were believers. And Abawa was actually Abawan. Noon has been dropped. Abawan, dual of Ab. As for the boy, his parents were believers. فَخَشِينَا أَن يُرْهِقَهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. And we feared that he would overburden them by transgression and disbelief. فَخَشِينَا from khashiyah is fear, and excitement caused by expectation of danger. We feared that he would overburden them by transgression and disbelief. And the term يُرْهِقَهُمَا from Kahf, the term rahaq is used for when one overpowers the other and puts another into difficulty, overtakes another. And arhaqa is to lay an unbearable burden on someone. We feared that he would overburden them by transgression and disbelief. He would cover them in tughyan and kufr, with problems, wastage of good deeds. Or he would make them commit tughyan and kufr. And tughyan is transgression, rebellion, exceeding the limits. Tagha means to transgress. So meaning if this child would remain alive, he would prove to be harmful for the deen of his parents. He would lead them towards committing wrong deeds. And generally, parents impact their children, but sometimes children also impact their parents. In the same family, there may be one child that is obedient to the parents, and then there may be one child that is disobedient. So sometimes certain children take a lot of influence from their parents. Sometimes parents end up taking influence from children. And this happens in every relationship, even husband-wife relationship. Sometimes the husband has more influence on the wife, and sometimes the wife has more influence on the husband. فَأَرَدْنَا أَن يُبْدِلَهُمَا رَبُّهُمَا خَيْرًا مِنْهُ. So we intended by killing him. And why is we being used here? Because the command was from Allah. Khadir carried it out. We intended that their Lord should substitute for them one better than him, better than this ghulam. Zakatan wa aqraba ruhma, in purity, meaning righteousness and taqwa, and nearer than this rebellious child to mercy. Ruhma from raha mim. Rahma is mercy, compassion. So he would be more prone, meaning this other child would be more prone to silatul rahim, a source of happiness for the parents and keeping the family united. So Allah commanded Khadir to kill the first child, and in its place Allah would grant them, this couple, a better child. So Allah teaches us in different ways. Sometimes He teaches us by granting us blessings, and sometimes He teaches us by taking blessings away. And in both of these ways, he is compassionate towards his slaves. And this is again why we should be content with the decree of Allah. At times of ease, be grateful. At times of hardship, be patient. وَأَمَّا الْجِدَارِ, and as for the wall, جِدَار, why I restored it? فَكَانَ لِغُلَامَيْن, it belonged to two boys, يَتِيمَيْن, who were orphans. يَتِيمَيْن, the role of yatim. Two boys whose father had passed away, and they had not yet reached the age of puberty. فِي الْمَدِينَةِ, in the city, meaning who lived in the city. وَكَانَ تَحْتَهُ كَنْز, and there was beneath it, meaning the wall, a treasure. Kanz from Kahf Nun Zai. Kanz is used for a buried or hidden treasure. وَكَانَ تَحْتَهُ كَنْزٌ لَهُمَا وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. There was beneath it, meaning beneath the wall, a treasure for them, belonging to them. And their father had been righteous, meaning تَقِيًّا صَالِحًا. And out of appreciation of Allah for this righteous man, Allah was kind to his children. And this is of the blessings of righteous parents. Allah protects the children. Because if this wall fell, the people would have been able to discover the treasure, right? And if the wall fell, then the people would want to erect a new wall. And in that, what would they do? They would discover the treasure. فَأَرَادَ رَبُّكَ أَن يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُمَا. So your Lord intended that they reach maturity. They should reach the age of puberty. وَيَسْتَخْرِجَ كَنْزَهُمَا رَحْمَةً مِّن رَبِّكَ, and extract their treasure as a mercy from your Lord. يَسْتَخْرِجَ from ra'jim, istikhraj means to extract. وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي, and I did it, meaning all three of these actions, not of my own accord. Amr means matter or issue, meaning these issues are not something that I came up with myself, these actions that I performed. Meaning these three things that I did, that you observed, come from the mercy of Allah for those we have mentioned, the crew of the ship, the parents of the boy, and the two sons of the righteous man. I was only commanded to do these things that were enjoined upon me. ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. That is the interpretation, the explanation, or the aqibah, the outcome of that about which you could not have patience. So this is what you were not able to be patient about. Had you been a bit patient, you would have seen the wisdom. So, the mention of Allah's rahmah, rahmatan min rabbik. From this we understand that the mercy of Allah was manifested when it comes to the fixing of the wall, the killing of the child, the damage that was caused to the boat. And this is the reason why a believer praises Allah at all times. And so we learn from this that we need to do what? Accept the decree of Allah with happiness. And if there is some hardship that comes our way, we must look at what is the good contained within that. Because the reality is that we don't know as much as we think we know. Allah knows everything. His knowledge is perfect. His mercy is also perfect. His wisdom is also perfect. And we as believers need to be most of all intense in our love for Allah, which means we continue to obey Him on His terms. Okay? All right, so inshallah we will end here for today. When we resume next week, inshallah, we will go back to some of these verses from lesson number 153. The reflection question is, how patient am I? Do I have enough patience to gain knowledge? Do I have the determination that Musa alayhi salam showed in his journey? Then also action points, take a step to improve or fix your dealings with someone who is or has been your teacher, recognizing Allah's favor and the ihsan of this person. Express your gratitude and apologize if you've been neglectful. And ask Allah to include this deed in your book of records as ahsan amal. Okay, inshallah. All right. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.